Light the fire and prepare the feast. It's Nomatu's third birthday. Happy birthday, Samkelo. Please tell us a bit about yourself and Nomatu.
Yes, let's light that fire. It's a pity we don't have a cake around us. Nomatu Consulting is 3 years old. What a journey. What a learning. What an empowerment. What an insight. So personally, I'm excited. And then also the company, I think it's excited as well. It's been an interesting journey. So yeah, I feel good about what we've done so far. And I'm looking forward to share our story, to share the valleys, to share the mountaintops, to share the turns and the challenges of Nomatu Consulting, and also to let our clients know how much we've grown and how much we've become better at what we do. And I hope those who are watching and listening will also enjoy getting a bit about Samkelo, but also about Nomatu Consulting. Thank you, Simone.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. Let's jump in. So when you think about this significant milestone and sharing Nomatu's story, you had a strong connection to the analogy of a baby and a child. Tell us why.
Yeah, that's a very interesting question because Nomatu started as a seed. There are a lot of events. You don't start a company on day one. There are a lot of events and circumstances, a lot of highs and lows, lots of problems and scenarios that give birth to one starting a company. So I use that analogy of birth because birth is a process. The embryo is conceived. Within 9 months, that becomes a baby that is born. So there was a process to Nomatu also becoming fully and going out there on its own as well. So there were various stages. There was an idea. There was a young person working in corporate, either working in skills development or they're working in transformation or working in HR, who just saw the need for something different around diversity, inclusion, and belonging. So all of those events, also my background as well, coming from the Eastern Cape, being born in an environment of poverty, of lack and brokenness, all of those, if you put all of them together, those events are what culminated or gave birth to Nomatu. So as I sit here with you, Simone, Zapalala is here. Mhlozayo ukhona apa. Amaqwathi, amakhwemte bakhona apa nabo. Onobendiba bakhona apa nabo. So I sit here with a past, with ancestors, with a rich tapestry that has given birth to Nomatu. And Afrikaans ons het a geskiedenis as a maatskappy. Thank you.
Going back to that history, to the seed in the very beginning, take us back to the Eastern Cape, to that lush landscape and the crossing of the railway to a farm, and tell us what happened and where was that seed planted.
I must be honest, it's only now that one reflects, and it's only that now one is able to trace his past, that one can see that upbringing. Growing up in a township, at that time it used to be the second biggest township, Dansan, and just next to East London. It's only now that one reflects about the early years when one was in high school, when I had these friends who stayed in a farm, and I, every now and again, maybe twice a week, I had to walk across the railway line to go and visit them. And like kids, we played, and I had to speak English, and that's why I had to practice my English language. But also they were different from me, but strange enough, I didn't see the difference in them. We were kids. We went to swim in the dam. We went up the tree to go and get some nice fruit from the tree. We looked after cattle. We did horse riding. That integration, those experiences, those were the early identification and awareness of diversity and inclusion. Because when I was with them, there was no race, there was no difference. We found our own way to grow, whether it was like speaking to sign language or getting bits and bits of this, but also that's where I was growing in my English and also sitting with them when they had supper and their families. They also included, even though there was a helper in their houses, but I was allowed to sit in the same table and eat with the family as well. I can remember reading Farmers Weekly magazine. I saw that magazine for the first time in that house as well. Yeah.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. And how was your transition into Cape Town? I believe you came to UCT, and what informed that experience?
As you grow in the Eastern Cape or in any other place, you want to further your studies. And for me, when I did my matric, to be honest with you, Cape Town never crossed my mind. Fort Hare University was in my radar, and UNITRA. And interesting enough, UNITRA wrote back and said, we acknowledge the receipt of your application. I did apply to UCT, but I was not hoping that UCT will take me. So it was a surprise when they wrote back and said, just to confirm, you have a place at the university. Here's a form, confirm that you're accepting the place. It was a big shock because I'd never seen anyone studying at UCT. It was a high-level university. It never crossed my mind that I will be at UCT. But also, to be honest with you, I was scared. I was really, will I measure up to UCT? Look, my academic was very good. I was top of my class in high school as well. But when you say University of Cape Town, Rondebosch, and I'd only come once to Cape Town, so it was a mixture of excitement, but also there was that voice, will you measure up? Will you have the grades given the ivory, the elitist, and the high benchmarks that are expected of one at the University of Cape Town?
So one of your first jobs was going back to university as a student liaison officer. Share with us why that was important in your diversity, inclusion, and belonging journey.
That's another interesting part of my journey. After I did my matric and I went to study at UCT and I finished my degree, my first job, I worked in an NGO, non-governmental organization, working with young people on conflict handling, on leadership, working in schools. And then I went back to UCT as an employee. That was a major milestone for me. Because if you recall, I said earlier on, being accepted at UCT was a major breakthrough, even though I was scared. So now I'm coming back to UCT, not as a student. I'm coming back to UCT as an employee. I still remember my staff number, 1172121. I don't forget it because for me, it was a major milestone, as you've also indicated. My role as a school liaison officer at UCT, I had to go out across KZN, Eastern Cape, and find students who are either African, Indian, or colored, who've got very good grades, either standard 9 or grade 11 or matric results, and offer them a place to study at UCT, offer them accommodation, but also offer them a bursary on one condition. If that student is getting 60% at grade 11, for him or her to have the place secured at UCT, they must either maintain that 60% at that time or improve that grades. And on the spot, I could say, you've got a place to UCT, within a week or two, they'll get a letter, but that letter is a conditional offer. What was nice, they now know while they're already at high school that I have a place to study at UCT. Also, I have accommodation at UCT. Also, I have a bursary. What was nice for me in that role, which was also empowering for me, is I was part of that diversity, bringing in Black students to the university. Also, I was already involved now in tertiary education integration. I was taking someone who might have come from a village in KZN or from a village in the Eastern Cape. That student, male or female, UCT might have never thought crossed their mind. By interacting with me doing a career guidance, showing the benefits to UCT, I was introducing that student to a much more higher, better goal and purpose for them as well. But also it was fulfilling. He who was once looking for a place is now a catalyst for others to find a place for education and thus parachute their career and their dreams to a better place as well.
Now that the seed was planted, how was it that Nomatu came to be born?
So when I finished, when I worked at UCT, and then I've worked in various companies after UCT, whether it's Standard Bank, Old Mutual, my journey was a journey of either working as a trainer, as a facilitator, holding a cookie pen and a flip chart, and also heading up learning and development at Old Mutual, at Naspers, all of these great organizations, also working in government as well. Simone, when I was working, I enjoyed the work. I enjoyed the learning in all of these organizations. But also in some companies, I had good experiences. Sadly, in some organizations, I did not have good experiences. Whether it was the leadership of the organization, whether it was the culture of the organization, or whether it was the type of work that I was doing, I always had this feeling that there must be a better option. And when I went into an executive management, and when I saw people coming in for interviews, when I saw people being developed, being sent to courses, but not finding meaningful roles, that's when I realized that there is a missing link. And then that's when the thought of Nomatu Consulting started crossing my mind. In my last role as a group HR executive, that's when it was confirmed that you need to do something differently. And so when I left corporate in August 2018, 3 years from now, I went out and set up a company called Nomatu Consulting. Truth be told, our go-to market in August 2018, it was when I be doing transformation and human resources. It was not diversity and inclusion. It was 6 months in the journey that I realized that what I'm doing what I've always done, functional work, HR and transformation. I'm not closing the gap on diversity, inclusion. Belonging had not come in at that stage in terms of our thought process. And yet my burden, yet my own experiences, yet my own challenges were pointing me to diversity, inclusion, and later part belonging. So for the first 6 months, we went to market as we are an HR boutique consulting company. We help you with transformation and BEE. And that was the most part where I felt we're doing more compliance work, not transformational relational work as well. So after 6 months, I realized, no, how about focusing on what I'm good, where my burden and passion is, which is diversity, inclusion, and belonging. As we began doing that work, that's when we began aligning to our true north. That's when our voice being heard by corporates. That's when big companies said, tell us more. Do you also do this? Tell us, what does belonging mean as well?
Going back to those first 6 months, I'm sure there were lonely moments and uncertain moments. Could you share with us what that was like? Who received Nomatu?
Yeah, it's a mixture of emotions, and to be honest with you, it's not a part that I like talking about. I always say I don't wish this journey of entrepreneurship on anyone, because my career, I had been an employee and I had risen up to an executive. I had everything reported to 2 CEOs. But in August 2018, I had to branch out on my own, and I had no clients. I was not clear what I was going to be doing. I knew either HR, transformation, and later diversity and inclusion. So I've had to clarify, what is my niche in the market? What is that we want to do? How do we want to do it? And clients don't come out on day number 1 when you start out on business. I had to work in a coffee shop. I had to design our strategy. I had to look at possible clients. I had to define the value proposition of what we want to do. It was lonely. It was hard. There were a lot of tears. I struggled a lot in the first year with rejection. Not getting the kind of meetings that I want, not getting the voice heard. I still remember driving on the N1 to go and see a client up in Paarl, and tears streaming down because I'm driving a car and the fuel gauge comes up, says, you need to put fuel in the car, and not even having the money. And I don't wish those days on anyone. I'm going to a meeting to see a client, a big JSE listed company. I'm wondering, will the fuel get me there? Will the fuel take me back as well? Also, friends that I thought that would support me, they were not there as well. That's when the voices of doubt, have you made the right choice? Maybe you belong in corporate. Maybe you need to go back and work. So those first 6 months, as you allude to them, they were the challenging months. They were the most painful months, because I've got a family. I've got daughters I need to support. I need to pay bills as well. And yet nothing is coming out. Our first client signed with us in December 2018. But our first placement was only in May of 2021. We signed our first retainer in April 2020. So we made our first placement of an executive in May 2019. But our first retainer, we signed it in April 2019 as well. It was lonely. It was challenging. Those are parts when I think about emotionally, the wound, the loneliness, the challenges, I struggle to think about. Hence I say, I don't wish that on anyone. And that's the part about entrepreneurship that doesn't get communicated and shared. All these glory, wonderful things get shared about entrepreneurship.
Well, thank you for sharing some of the low points, but also some of the highlights. Are there any other milestones during your crawling phase? You mentioned that you got 2 clients. Was that when you realized that Nomatu was validated?
Yeah, so we went into market, you will recall, not now with transformation and HR. We went to market now with diversity, inclusion, and then later belonging. And we said we want to focus. Companies always complain that we cannot find Black talent. So we went and said, how do we close that gap? And we were deliberate and intentional by focusing on managers and executive and C-suite. So Coronation Fund managers are the first client of ours that gave us a break. And they said, we want to give you a chance. We like the story that you are telling. Truth be told, we must have submitted about 6 applicants to Coronation, and all of them, they were rejected. So you can imagine doing all this hard work and submitting, and they were rejected not because Coronation was being bad or was being negative towards us, but there were certain criteria and standards and benchmarks in terms of performance and delivery as a provider, and the kind of caliber of talent we presented that we had to show to Coronation. And I remember sitting with the head of talent at Coronation and having a meeting with her and saying, what is it that we are doing wrong? Where can we improve? And they gave us the most wonderful, amazing, insightful feedback around performance, around culture, around what the company looks for. And that is how we're able to place our first female Indian executive with Coronation. That was a major breakthrough to us. When that placement came through, it was a validation or confirmation. I remember saying to my wife, the model works. So remember, it's an idea, but to have that placement, it was like validation to say, whatever you are doing, the model, the recipe, there's a room for it. And also the National Sea Rescue Institute, they signed a retainer with us for 6 months to help them with their HR, to help them with the OD and the culture. Again, it showed us that the model works. And then from there, companies started making requests. Can you help us with this? Can you do unconscious bias training for us? Can you help our leaders as well? So those warm blankets, those first clients, we are forever eternal grateful to them because they gave us a break. They believed in what Nomatu offers in the market. They didn't have to use us, but they said, we like what you're doing. You understand the business. Let's give this company an opportunity to partner with them on diversity, inclusion, but also on Black talent as well.
Very, very inspiring. And how did it feel to know that your company, your baby, was now learning to walk, and that other people and clients were also excited about this?
Excited, elated, jubilant that we're able to make those. But also, when I was working, there were certain organizations that I would like to work for. But now the script changed. I was not looking for work. I was interacting with some of those companies where I would have gone as an employee. I was interacting with them as a client. I was trying to help them with their diversity and inclusion needs, or with their need for Black talent, or with coaching or people advisory. That validation, that sense of I'm doing something different and something better. I'm now not an employee, but I'm partnering with this organization. That's something that I don't know how to describe it, but it's something that you feel like, wow, the tables have turned, but also they've turned in a good way. You are a consultant, you are a client, you are partnering with us in our journey.
And other people have also recognized that validation. Samkelo, recently you've received a CEO Recognition Award from the South African Board of People Practices for extraordinary service and outstanding contribution to the HR profession. How did it make you feel to receive such overwhelming affirmation of your work in diversity, inclusion, and belonging, and as well as the other services you offer?
Yeah, we didn't see that one coming, and to get that CEO Recognition Award was totally amazing for us, especially from the South African Board of People Practice, which is the SAICA version of men and women who work in HR. So we're excited about that, but also it serves as an affirmation that we are in the right space. In the kind of work I do, I speak in conferences, but also I continue to advance the cause and the belief and the agenda of the HR function. So whether it's an OD person, an HR practitioner, HR BP. I continue to advance that cause of function and the role and the value that HR adds. So it was good to be acknowledged and to be affirmed. And also other companies as well, they've written to say, well done, keep up the good work that you are doing. We see value and we wish Nomatu well in what they're trying to do. And also what was nice starting the organization as one reflects in the 3 years, Simone, is the kind of partnerships and relationships which are aimed around diversity, inclusion, and belonging, but also on talent. It's exciting now that companies can phone, if you can say, can you please help us with this? Or what's your thought on this? And now we are being seen as a thought leader around diversity, inclusion, and belonging. So it confirms to us that journey that began a long time ago in high school, that crossing the railway line, those experiences at varsity, those experiences at corporate, dealing with leadership, dealing with culture, some of them wounding, some of them painful, where one got negative feedback. All of those experiences, they've given birth and help us to be where we are right now.
Crawling to walking and now to running and jumping. Tell us what the future looks like for Nomatu. What's next?
We are now in a very exciting sport where we are very clear about what is it that we want to do. We've put, in Xhosa they will say, siqhubeke intente zethu. We've really pinned our thoughts on and a strategy around diversity. We really want to unpack diversity beyond race and gender. All the elements, whether it's culture, diversity, religion, and background. We also really pin our thoughts and strategy around inclusion. What inclusion is, how to measure inclusion, how to create processes and systems that make men and women, or people who might be gay, who might be lesbian, who might be transgender, millennials who join the age of work, old people, to feel included in organizations. We've really pinned our thought process around that, but also belonging. I just don't want to be an employee. I just don't want just to be included, but also I want to feel as though I belong. I'm part of this company. So Nomatu is really redefining diversity for organizations and corporate, inclusion for companies, but also what does belonging look like? What practices, what process systems that can either enhance or influence those things around diversity, inclusion, and belonging. So our future is redefining those. Our future is having those metrics, but also, as we always say, we want to be a catalyst for better employee experiences. We want to partner with companies beyond transformation, beyond employment equity, to create organizations where people say, I want to work here. We want to partner with Black talent. Someone watching this video or listening to say, I would like this company to help me in my career journey because I'm senior, I'm an executive, I'm C-suite, but I want to work in a company where I belong, where I'm seen beyond my race. I'm seen for my ability, for my capability, for my style, my intelligence, and my belief that I bring to the organization. That's what we want to do. That is our next. The future is bright. The future is wide for us, but we are clear on these three things. Our calling is in diversity, our calling is in inclusion, and our calling is in belonging.
It so beautifully ties into Nomatu's value proposition, which is "we get you." It's a phrase you use a lot. Mm-hmm. Tell us where that comes from.
The phrase "we get you" speaks to companies, but also speaks to individuals. In my career journey, I've worked in organizations where not all of them, where I didn't feel that they understood me, where I was just seen as a senior Black employee, where I was referred to as an EA candidate, where my character, my personality, my identity on how I view the world was seen as a problem, where I was made to fit in, where I was made to assimilate. So when I went home or reflected, it was like, I don't think they get me or they understand me. I almost had to wear a mask. I almost had to pretend so that I fit in and be what corporate want. I saw values called integrity in some of the companies where I worked at, but yet I did not experience those values lived out. So when I say we get you, I want a woman, I want a young person, I want a colored and Indian African person to work in a company that says, we get you. We get you beyond your degree. We get you beyond your gender. We get you beyond your race. At Nomatu, that's exactly what we do. We look at black talent more than the color and the race. We look at the gifts that they have, that their own experiences, how they grew up, their background, have afforded them the skills, which is what corporate needs as well. So when we say we get you, we get that black talent is looking for more than a job. They are bringing in their skill, their ability, but also they've got aspirations, they've got vision, they also know where they want to. But also we get corporate. As companies grow, as companies navigate the 4IRI, as companies try to become better at what they do, they will need talent. And that talent is ever evolving. And that talent is forever changing. We want to be the partner of choice when it comes to black talent and to present exceptional, good black talents to companies where it becomes a relationship, not a recruitment, where the company says, we will bring you in our organization, but also are prepared to learn what's the best way to nurture, grow, and make you also feel this is where you want to be.
The work that you do is so incredibly important internationally, but also nationally in this tapestry of our South African history. What gives you hope for the work you do in South Africa?
What gives us hope is knowing that each day, each moment, each second, we are shifting the dial, that we're planting a seed, we're creating a legacy, so that people who will go to the world of work will join organizations that look at them beyond their CV, beyond their working experience. We're doing our part to build a better South Africa. We've got clients that are global as well. Some of our clients say, because you've gone through that in South Africa, we want to partner with a company that understands reconciliation. But also we call a spade as well. And also we are the first one at Nomatu to admit when we don't know something. Look, in our journey, we've made mistakes. Look, in our journey, we've missed many, many things. And we're the first ones to say, we don't understand this. We don't do change management. So we'll refer to somebody who will do change management. So what gives us hope is to know that each day we're doing something that creates better organizations, better leadership, but also places where people feel included and feel that they belong as well. And that is a journey. Our work is best when we do long-term journey than one-day interventions on diversity and inclusion awareness or unconscious bias.
I've loved speaking to you today and hearing about Nomatu's journey, and can only think that there is a very bright light ahead. Before we close off, are there any last words you would like to share with the growing community in your village?
Yeah, I agree with you. There's a great light ahead, but also there are lots of challenges because this work evolves. If I look at my daughter who's 16 year old, and now and again she speaks about the kind of company that she would want to work in. She wants to go into science and engineering. I can't help and wonder, what will that company look like for her? So there are challenges in this kind of, and also the work we do, Simone, emotional is very challenging as well, because we deal with issues about people's background and past. We deal about people's definition of work. There are people who think that work is about arriving early and leaving late. So the work we do brings a lot of complexities, but also, as I said, emotionally challenging, because we want people to talk about their experiences, to talk about those uncomfortable issues, to have those courageous conversations. And sometimes at work, because we have to follow a protocol, we have to pretend there are certain issues around salary, around performance, around promotion, around talent management, which are not always easy to speak about. So in closing, we're looking forward to a journey of learning and growing with our partners, but also impacting in the space of diversity, inclusion, and belonging. Thank you.
Thank you, Samkelo.